I do have skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
Morning everyone. Well, it's the 11th of August 2019 today. Anyone that's been following the unlawfully detained by the military officer outside Whenuapai Air Base, where my friend that had been recording there for over 4.5 hours was unlawfully detained, unlawfully searched by a military police officer on a public sidewalk.
Anybody in uniform?
I don't know.
So you don't know if you've been, because that belongs to New Zealand Defence Force, and you understand that, don't you, sir? So you can't publish that or use any of that.
Who said I was going to publish it?
I was informed that you were press, sir. That's what
No one asked me if I was anything. You are the first person to ask me that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're not press, you're just a...
I'm a private citizen.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do, what I am going to ask you to do, sir, is I'm going to ask you to move on away from here, because we have a situation going on here.
No, I realise that. That's why I'm documenting it.
Have you got some identification on you?
Do I have to give you that?
I'm asking you if you've got any identification, yeah. So, Defence Regs Part 92, Part 3, 1990 states anyone entering, about to enter, leaving or about to leave, okay, a defence area, has to provide information.
That's fine.
So can I have some identification to find out who you are, sir?
Well, why do you need to know that?
Because
I haven't entered.
That's down to my discretion, not yours. Alright, so to be honest, mate, if we want to play the legislation game...
Well, I'm not trying to play anything.
No,
I'm just asking you a question.
I'm asking you for some identification. That's all I'm asking you for. About to enter, entering, leaving, or about to leave. You're here. This is a checkpoint. Okay.
Don't get upset with me. I'm just asking you a question.
And I'm asking you for ID, and you're not giving it to me.
No, it's not. I didn't say I wouldn't give it to you.
So can I have some ID, please?
I'm asking you why.
Because I want to know who you are.
How does that make it? I'm on private. I'm on public land.
Turn around for me. You're being detained for the purposes of identification. Do you understand? Don't resist, sir.
I'm not resisting.
Don't resist.
I'm not resisting.
Can I hold on to that for you? Otherwise
No. I'll put it in my pocket.
Put your hands behind your back now.
I'm not
Put your hands behind your back.
Why am I being arrested? I will leave if you wish me to. My license is... You reach into this top pocket. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. If you reach into this top pocket here, there is my wallet, and you can pull my wallet out.
Right, this is me.
Yes.
You've been detained for the purposes of identification. Do you understand?
I didn't mean to stop that.
Okay? That's what you've been detained for, so you have some rights.
If you want to see how disgusting Sergeant Skip acted, then just go back and watch the original video. Now, I've been doing a lot of backwards and forwards and chasing with New Zealand police to try and get my friend's property back, which was stolen from him that night by someone without any jurisdiction to do so. And that's been a bit of a battle for the last 3 months, but we've got some good news in regards to that. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got all of the emails and correspondence that I've been dealing with the Ministry of Defence. Now, I initially sent a complaint through to the Ministry of Defence asking some questions. They turned around and said to me, well, hey, we need an authority to act from my friend before they can talk to me about it. No problem, got that sorted. So anyway, from start to finish, or at least from start to initiating an investigation, hope you're going to like that one, Skippy. This is the correspondence from the Ministry of Defence, or New Zealand Defence Force. Now, Ministry of Defence is a separate entity from the New Zealand Defence Force. Ministry of Defence is the government branch, whereas New Zealand Defence Force is a separate completely. So because I complained to the Ministry of Defence Force, they sent it over to the New Zealand Defence Force under an Official Information Act question. So this is the first letter that I sent to defence, or info@defence.gov.nz on the 25th of June. So this was roughly 20 days. And by this point we'd been into the New Zealand Police Station a couple of times to try and recover his property. So I start off with, good morning. On the 5th of June, Sergeant Skip of New Zealand Defence Force Military Police stationed at Whenuapai Air Base had unlawfully detained and searched by Sergeant Skip at approximately 10:44. What I meant to say is my friend was unlawfully detained, but we'll move on. During the unlawful detention, my friend, who has authorised myself to make contact with MOD, was demeaned, ridiculed, treated without respect, threatened and had his rights infringed upon by your sergeant. Once actual New Zealand police attended, which at all times my friend remained on public property, he was immediately released from handcuffs and sent on his way. Sergeant Skip stole 2 work tools from my friend, which to date have not been returned and remain stolen. On the 6th of June 2019, we made contact with Carl Craigie, base commander of Whenuapai, and after a brief conversation, Carl could not supply either a phone number or contact email address, yet asked that the entire interaction that was captured on video not to be released for general public consumption until he had the 2IC of Northern Command make contact with me. Contact numbers for myself were given at that time. After approximately 1 week, as we had heard nothing from the Ministry of Defence, this video was released, showing the inappropriate and disgusting behaviour from Sergeant Skip, whom, once realising he was being recorded, breached my friend's rights under the New Zealand Bora 1990 Section 14 to seek, receive and impart information and opinions of any kind in any form, namely keeping an impartial record of your officer's behaviour. It's because he stopped the video as soon as, oh, you've been recording us, have you? And then stops it. Not allowed to do that. Now some nearly 3 weeks since, we have still had no contact from anyone of the Ministry of Defence and seek redress for your officer's unlawful actions and torts committed against my friend. Please explain why your MP acted without jurisdiction on a public footpath and unlawfully detained and searched this private citizen without any authority to do so. My contact number is blah blah blah. The 3 videos showing the facts are published and the links are below, and I give them the 3 links to the 3 videos that were released at the time. Notice, failure to respond within 7 days shall constitute a tacit agreement that New Zealand Ministry of Defence is aware of this incident and care not that a private citizen was treated without dignity and or respect while being unlawfully detained and searched for almost 1 hour. Notice, all correspondence, including this, shall be published on multiple forums for maximum accountability and transparency of those being paid by the public tax dollars. We note that Carl Craigie was concerned about the MOD's reputation. However, your officer did nothing to help said reputation, and this footage is now gaining considerable interest of the general populace. Please make contact to avoid further embarrassment to the Ministry of Defence and its reputation. Please supply what facts or evidence to support your MOD MP having any jurisdiction on a public footpath outside his operational purview. Sincerely, me, authorised representative of my friend. Okay, so that was on June 25th. So you might note there that I put failure to respond within 7 days shall constitute a tacit agreement. What they did do is they sent me an email back saying that it's been treated as a New Zealand Defence Force, and that they were going to forward it through. So they responded within those 7 days. So to Chris Hurd, Senior Solicitor of the Ministry of Justice, he seems to think a failure to respond notice doesn't work. It's strange that every single time I put a failure to respond notice with the time, people do respond within that time because they don't want to constitute a tacit agreement. Now, on the 9th of July, I received from Ministerial Services at New Zealand Defence Force, or ministerial services at nzdf.mil.nz, so military address. Good morning, Mr. Keane. Please find attached a response to your request of the 25th of June. Regards. And this is from Corporate Ministerial Services, OCDF, Office of Chief of Defence Force, New Zealand. Whoopty shit. Now you might notice on the bottom of these things, you get it with the police too, it says this information contained in this email message is intended for the addressees only and may contain privileged information, but not necessarily the official views of opinions of New Zealand Defence Force. Same with the police. You always get an email saying, This email is, if it's not meant for you, well clearly it was meant for me, so I can do whatever the fuck I like with it, including posting it. It's only if you receive something like that by accident that you shouldn't be sharing. However, as I am the recipient, I can share any email with anyone I like, irrespective of whether it may, because it also means may not, contain personal information. Any personal information that isn't in the public sphere, I quite happily block out. Don't want to breach anyone's privacy. Moving on. So that was the email I got from them, and that was accompanied with, I think I may have already posted this one before. This is the official information response from the New Zealand Defence Force. It says, "Dear Mr. Keane, I refer to your email of 25th of June addressed to the Ministry of Defence. This was transferred to the New Zealand Defence Force for response, as the issues raised do not relate to the functions of the Ministry. You have advised that you have been authorised to represent my friend. The NZDF will require the signed confirmation from my friend that you represent him. Following this confirmation, the NZ Defence Force will consider your request. CJA Hoey, Director of Coordination, Opposite the Chief Ministry of Defence, or Chief of Defence Force." Okay, so that's what we got from CJA Hoey. So on the 12th of July, I responded, "Good morning. Please refer to the attached correspondence for CJA Hoey, Director Coordination, Opposite the Chief Defence Force. Regards me." To CJA Hoey, Director of Coordination, Opposite the Chief Defence Force, Ministerial Services at nzdf.mil.nz. Now, if anybody wants to question the validity of these documents or accuse me of, I don't know, manufacturing these responses or fraudulent documents or anything like that, by all means take the information and do your own fucking research, because some people, even though I'm showing them right here what I've got, they want to say that possibly I make shit up. So you're welcome to take this information and do whatever the fuck you like with and verify it for yourselves. Dear Mr. Hoey, thank you for your correspondence dated and received on the 9th of July 2019 with regards to the incident between NZDF military police, namely Sergeant Skip, and my friend on the night of the 5th of June 2019, where my friend was unlawfully detained and searched without reasonable grounds. We will endeavour to have our friend complete another Authority to Act form, this time for New Zealand Defence Force, as he has done previously for New Zealand Police in relation to this matter. Until such time, okay, so this is the bit that Andy Woods, Air Commodore of New Zealand Defence Force, and CJA Hoey need to contemplate here, because in this letter I am now asking generic questions. Nothing to do with the incident on the 5th of June or my friend that he's authorised for me to talk to, because they don't want to talk about that shit until I'm authorised to be discussed with. So they need that form. So I thought I'd slip it down to generic questions, not specifically involving anything to do from that night or Sergeant Skippy's actions. So I wrote, until such time, we shall respect your position to protect his privacy until this can be done, and not divulge any personal information in regards to NZDF staff's actions on that night in question. Meanwhile, under the Official Information Act 1982, please answer the following general questions for our clarification. Why CJA Hoey and Andy Woods, or AJ, can't actually answer these generic questions is beyond me. Perhaps it shows that they know Skippy shouldn't have done what the fuck he did. But we'll move on. 1. What jurisdiction, authority or power in relation to any private citizen or member of public, if any, does a New Zealand Defence Force military police officer or provost officer, that's what they call them, have in a public place, such as a footpath or a public easement? Got no answer to that one. 2. Does New Zealand Defence Force military police officer have any discretion to decide whether a private citizen or member of public has any intent to exit or enter an airbase, such as Whenuapai, without reasonable belief. 3. Under the Defence Regulations 1992, sections 32 and 33, how does an officer in charge of a defence area ascertain if a member of public or private citizen is about to enter a defence area? Because remember, Skippy's saying it's his discretion. That might be right if, you know, someone was trying to enter or exit. It may very well be his discretion to allow entry or to allow exit. But to someone that's never tried to go on or tried to leave that area, he ain't got jack shit. Number 4, is a member of public or private citizen obligated to answer any questions from a New Zealand Defence Force military police officer on a public footpath? I can give you the answer to this one. No. However, that's not what Sergeant Skippy seems to think, so I do hope they get some retraining involved. And final question 5, because I don't like to ask too much, they might feel overwhelmed, you know. Between the 4th of June and the 6th of June, in accordance with the Section 9 of the Defence Act 1990, was there in effect any written authority by the Minister of Defence or Prime Minister authorising any use of armed forces to provide public service or assist civil powers with regards to Whenuapai Air Base? The answer to that one is no, there wasn't either, because unless there's some written authority by the Chief of the Minister of Defence or the Prime Minister, they don't have any. Thank you for your time in relation to our Official Information Act request. Sincerely me. Okay, and that was on the 12th. So then on the 15th of June, my friend came out and visited me on the weekend between the 12th and 15th, and he signed me one of those authority to act forms. So I think, given that the letter on the 12th that I sent CJA Hoey is only asking generic questions that they seem to fail to be able to answer within the allotted time frame in legislation, and it is not something under Section 6C of the Official Information Act that you don't get to answer because of some current investigation going on. No, these were generic questions, nothing to do with Skippy. They refused to answer them. So on the 15th of July, now that I had an authority to act form, I also emailed CJA Hoey, and I also sent this to Tim Williams, Denny Tune, and Shane Page, who was acting on behalf of Tim Williams while he was away. So I sent this to all parties involved, police and New Zealand Defence Force. Greetings, CJA Hoey. Re your response to correspondence on the 9th of July. Please find attached a signed and dated copy of an authority to act form from my friend for your records. We further require you to also consider that this matter, due to the incident being publicised on multiple media organisations, is gaining considerable public interest. To clarify, please answer the following questions. 1. We require to be informed of what jurisdiction or authority, if any, Sergeant Skip, now these are direct questions involved to that muppet, of New Zealand Defence Force Military Police was acting under on the evening of the 5th of June 2019 when he approached my friend on the public footpath while he was exercising his affirmed rights. 2. After being informed that my friend had in no way entered or intended to enter your defence area, what grounds gave Sergeant Skip the right, power or authority to use his own personal discretion to decide whether my friend was allegedly intending to enter or about to enter the defence area, giving Sergeant Skip therefore reason to require my friend to provide his private information to Sergeant Skip, according to the Defence Regulations 1990, Section 33. See attached. 3. Given my friend had reparked and was standing and videoing from exactly where another New Zealand Defence Force military police officer had instructed him to be, why was he then told, when harassed by Sergeant Skip, that my friend's footage was the property of New Zealand Defence Force and could not be published. A complete lie and untrue. 4. Who had informed Sergeant Skip that my friend was a, quote, member of the media? 5. What information in relation to requiring a press pass to exercise my friend's affirmed rights under New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990 Section 14 to seek, receive and impart information, opinions of any kind in any form was Sergeant Skip acting under, and from whom? 6. Is the New Zealand Defence Force aware that the public footpath is in fact a public place? See Summary Offences Act 1981 Section 2 for definition of public place. 7. What reasonable grounds did Sergeant Skip have to believe my friend was about to, was or had committed an offence to then unlawfully search my friend under Section 32 of the Defence Regulations 1992? 8. Why was my friend's property damaged upon removal and stolen without any seizure receipt or identity of whom has his property in their possession? 9. Does the New Zealand Defence Force not appreciate that private citizens or members of the public can exercise their rights without being coerced, threatened, unreasonably detained, handcuffed for 40 minutes, degraded, demeaned, and treated without respect by its military police officers? 10. Is it the public's obligation to make New Zealand Defence Force jobs easier by blind compliance to unreasonable requests? 11. What threat of harm or safety does a private citizen or member of the public present by exercising their rights, namely recording in public? 12. Is it normal for military police officers to display fear of a private citizen in the dark, acting lawfully? 13. What corrective measures or re-education, retraining can be offered to military police officers to ensure further instances of your military police officers do not happen in future by overstepping their authority, scope, jurisdiction and powers? 14. Can New Zealand Defence Force please supply the legislative reference that gives any military police officer jurisdiction in a public place over a private citizen or member of public? 15. Under Section 9 of the Defence Act 1990, either the Prime Minister or Chief of Defence Force can authorise civil powers to armed forces in case of a civil emergency. Was any such authorisation active on the 5th of June 2019? No, it wasn't. We look forward to your responses. Warm regards, me. And I attach an authority to act form here. The Defence Act 1990, Section 9. The Defence Act 1990, Section 9... Oh, sorry, there were 2 pages, pages 1 and 2. The Defence Regulations 1990, Section 33. The Defence Regulations 1990, Section 32, Powers of Search. And New Zealand BORA 1990, Section 14, which clearly states freedom of expression, the right to seek, receive and impart information and opinions of any kind in any form, i.e. recording in public on a fucking footpath. And I also attached New Zealand BORA 1990 Section 23, rights of persons detained or arrested. Now, on the 15th of July, shortly after that, now let's see, I emailed that through on, what day? That was on July 15th at 2:20 PM. So some 14 minutes later, the New Zealand Defence Force decided to respond to me. Good afternoon, Mr. Keane. Thank you for providing the authorisation. A decision on your request will be provided as soon as possible and within the legislated time frame, which means they have until the 9th of August, the last day, to respond to my Official Information Act request, which was made on the 12th of July. That's exactly 28 days or 20 working days and 4 weekends. Okay? And that's what they sent me on the 15th. Then I hit nothing for a month, because I know the cogs will work slowly. They do turn, they just turn slowly. Good afternoon, Mr. Keane. On the 9th of August, Please find attached a response to your requests for information. Not that they're going to give me any information, because they seem to not understand what the difference between is questions relating to a specific matter and questions that are generic that they have failed to respond to. Their response on the 9th of August was, Dear Mr. Keane, I refer to your emails of the 25th of June and 12th of July. Really? What about the 15th of July? Did you want to respond to that one, Andy? Because the 15th of July is when I was asking questions in relation to the matter on the 5th of June. The 12th of July were generic questions which you've ignored and failed to answer. Thank you for bringing this matter to the attention of the New Zealand Defence Force. Your complaint warrants investigation, and I can confirm an investigation has been initiated. How do you like them apples, Skippy? Happy days, is it? With this in mind, the information you have requested is withheld in accordance to Section 60 of the Official Information Act 1982, as its release would prejudice the maintenance of law. So, answering whether or not an MP has jurisdiction on a sidewalk would prejudice the maintenance of law? How's that one work out, Andy? What might prejudice the maintenance of law is you asking any specific questions in regards to that night, but you haven't answered the generic questions that I posed to you on the 12th of July, Andrew. Do you not understand simple questions? Do you not understand what general questions are, as opposed to questions in relation to that particular matter, which I gave you on the 15th of July? Do you not understand the difference? You're an Commodore, I would expect you to know. Including the prevention, investigation and detention of offences, which means they are investigating Sergeant Skip for possible detection, for prevention, investigation and detention of offences. And the right to a fair trial. Military tribunal would be in old Skippy's case, wouldn't it? Please be assured your concerns are taken seriously, or being taken seriously. Thank you, AJ. Hopefully the message I left you on your phone on Friday is also taken seriously. Hopefully you know how to use a telephone and to ring me back and answer my generic questions, or respond via email in writing, which I prefer. Doesn't matter, I record everything anyway. Perhaps you can give me some generic answers back.
Defence operator.
Yes, is that the Defence Force?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is Mark King calling. I received a letter from AJ Woods, Air Commodore, today in regards to an Official Information Act request. Would you like that reference, or are you the right person to talk to?
No, I'm just operator. Was it Andy Woods, or?
Pardon me?
Or was it Andy Woods? WOOD?
Yes, AJ Woods.
Yeah, because I can put you through to his office, and the secretary will be able to
sure.
sort that out.
That'd be great. Thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, Andy Woods is not available. Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press hash for more options.
Yes, hello Andy. My name is Mark Keane. Calling in regards to an OIA Official Information Act request 2019-3560.1. I've just received your email today with a letter that you say that you refer to my emails of the 25th of June and 12th of July, and that you can't answer the generic questions that were posed in that letter of the 12th of July because it could cause the right to a fair trial not to happen. My point is here that as far as Sergeant Skip and the Whenuapai Air Base and his unlawful detention and search, I haven't asked any questions on the 12th of July about that particular point. I've asked generic questions in regards to whether any military police officer has jurisdiction on a public footpath. Nothing specific to Sergeant Skip. So if you could answer those questions, because these are pretty much generic questions and not in relation to that matter at all. Bear in mind that the New Zealand Police have also still got property that was taken from him that night. It's been 3 months and he still has no receipt or anything from it. Given that your officer unlawfully took it from him, we'd like some answers, or at least his property returned. The police are telling us that they're waiting for responses from you in regards to jurisdiction as to whether or not they can then lay a summary offence on him for possession of knives in public. Given that the search was unlawful and not conducted by a police officer, that would be interesting. But they're using that as a point to not return his property. So someone's stolen his property, whether it's the New Zealand Defence Force or the police. Either way, it is going to be publicised, and I would like an answer from you in regards to those generic questions on the letter sent to you on the 12th of July. In no way would they affect anyone's right to a fair trial when I'm asking generic questions. So my contact number is 027. If you'd like to actually call me back and answer me directly. Otherwise, you can respond back to my email address, which you already have. Thank you very much, Andy. You have a great day. Bye.
You have the right under Section 28.3 of the OIA to ask an Ombudsman to review my response to your request. I have no need to ask another gatekeeper and waste my time further. I'll just take it that now Sergeant Skip is now under investigation for his actions on the 5th of June. Good! Although that investigation would be somewhat not conducted fully if neither myself, being the authorised representative of my friend, isn't contacted in relation to that investigation. Because how on earth can you say you've done a complete and thorough investigation if you haven't contacted the person that was unlawfully detained and searched that night's legal representative, or the one with the authority to act on his behalf? Me. So you best pick up the phone and answer some questions, AJ. Okay, so given that I just received that answer from the New Zealand Defence Force, and on the conversation I had with Tim in July, a month beforehand, in regards to when my friend's going to get his stolen property back, Tim was also waiting for the New Zealand Defence Force to get back to him in regards to jurisdiction. Same questions I was asking. Now, given they didn't want to tell me, well then it would be wrong for them to go and treat New Zealand Police anything different, wouldn't it? Because they're not going to answer his fucking questions either. Although he can say he's investigating a crime, but given it's a military officer, he's got no jurisdiction to question a military officer. It's the Defence Force and military tribunal. Those two separations of things, aren't they? So I sent Tim this on the 9th of August. This is Tim Williams, Detective Sergeant. Good afternoon, Tim. As we have heard back from the New Zealand Defence Force, and they have failed to answer my generic questions as to jurisdiction and authority of a military officer in public, and they are now conducting an investigation into Sergeant Skip's actions that night, which would point out that he had stepped over his jurisdiction and authority, or they wouldn't be an investigation, please supply one of the following: identity, who is in possession of my friend's property that was unlawfully taken from him without any seizure receipt, as his property remains stolen and unaccounted for, given New Zealand Police have not provided any such documentation in relation to his property, please do so. Explain how long it will take for New Zealand Police to decide whether to continue to presumably maintain possession of my friend's property without authority to do so, or any alleged charges being filed. We are aware that New Zealand Police have 6 months from the date of the, I said 5th of May, I meant 5th of June 2019, to file such an allegation. Is my friend to continue to be without his property until such time? It would be better for New Zealand Police to return my friend's possessions, which are presumed to be in the possession of New Zealand Police after being unlawfully stolen from him by an overstepping provost officer, without any jurisdiction or authority under the Defence Act 1990 Section 9 to do so. Return his property or provide a property receipt which has not been provided to date for his stolen property. If you are still awaiting responses from the New Zealand Defence Force, and given that they cannot answer our questions under Section 6C of the Official Information Act 1982, the same would apply to New Zealand Police. Either way, if we must wait until the 5th of November 2019 for New Zealand Police to realise the error in New Zealand Defence Force's MP's actions, we will. And the general public can decide regardless. We trust Sergeant Skip will be thinking twice before performing unlawful actions against another member of public simply recording from the footpath. I will be returning there from time to time to make sure of it, and you can count on it. I mean, I've got some camera functions I need to work out on my P900. Got to get that focus bit sorted, and what better place than somewhere with a mesh fence so I can sort out my focusing problems. I think Gate 7 might be a good spot. On another issue, in 2016, Sergeant Brian Leslie of Henderson Police Station unlawfully detained myself for recording in a public outside the police station. After a complaint was filed with IPCA, Matt Lawrenson of Henderson Police informed me that the staff at Henderson Police Station would be re-educated to this legal and lawful activity. However, on the 22nd of April, and I've since found out it's the 14th of April, Sergeant Brian Leslie again accosted a private citizen and unlawfully detained a Mr., and I'll leave his name out of it, but let's just say he has made contact with me. He has a copy of the IPCA judgment saying that Brian Leslie and the rest of the little ducks at Henderson Police Station should have been re-educated about the lawful activity of recording on a sidewalk. We accosted a private citizen and unlawfully detained a Mr. for doing the exact same thing. This clearly is not acceptable, and if you could please relay to Brian that his actions will be reported soon to the general public, hence this video, as clearly his re-education did not take. Brian, pull your head in. Stop attacking members of the public for using a camera. You're not allowed. I would also point out that this other person, after being accosted by Brian and arrested that night, he went back there to take some more footage. Now, it was after hours. He was led into a secure area by a police officer and offered a place to put his bike down. Then when he was in the police station, being let in by a police officer, he was then jumped on by 7 cops, had his ribs broken and beaten up severely by them because he was in a secure area. Well, perhaps New Zealand Police should protect their security more and not let undocumented people into secure areas. Or perhaps they need a serious lesson on how not to jump on individuals that are doing nothing wrong and breaking their ribs. That is disgusting. We trust this correspondence finds you in good health. Sincerely, me, authorised representative of my mate. Then on Friday the 8th, last Friday, I got this from Tim Williams in response. We would I take it he means like, to have a brief conversation with my friend and yourself if like, at Henderson Police Station. We will be working tomorrow till 4 PM. If you could pop in before then, if that suits for you. As you know, we are often out attending jobs, so you can give me a bell on, and he supplies his phone number, first, just to check Denny or I can meet you at the station. So he's not saying why he wants, he says he'd like to have a brief conversation. That's interesting, because shortly afterwards he didn't want to talk much. But at the, I would say, at the end of the day, he did respond, which is better than most. And after meeting Tim, he seems like a stand-up type guy. He knows, as well as I do, that my friend was extremely lucky he wasn't searched by a normal police officer, because if he was, they most certainly would have charged him. So my friend can count himself lucky in that regard, and he will be taking more precautions in the future and not forgetting that his work tools are on him when he's out in public. But at the end of the day, he doesn't see the problem with it anyway, because he had no mens rea, he had no intent to do anything wrong, and he can easily produce some document from his work if needed to say that those tools are used on his work that day. So his reasonable excuse was covered. As far as reasonable excuse is concerned, there is no real definition of reasonable excuse. It seems to be up to solely the district court judge or the judge that's presiding over the day to see if those charges come, whether or not that's reasonable excuse or not. But any half reasonable person would consider someone still having their work tools on them as a jib stopper stuff, would still have a Stanley knife in his pocket when he goes to the shop to buy a pie at lunchtime. You know, those sorts of things. Although some take their tools off and leave them on site, some people do walk around with a Stanley knife in their pocket. So you really got to put shit into context, you know, not be tyrants like Sergeant Skip and try and make a mountain out of a molehill. I hope he likes that mountain coming and landing on top of him afterwards. Okay, so after that I had a brief conversation with my friend, and we had a wee chat. So I then responded to Tim on Saturday morning at 5 to 9 in the morning. Alright, so this isn't too bad for a time response. Good morning, Tim. I have made contact with my friend and he has no wish to discuss anything or make any statement, as is his right. Anything you wish to discuss can be done via myself, Tim. You have not supplied a property receipt as required for my friend's stolen property, which we presume is in the custody of New Zealand Police, and have to date failed to answer any questions posed. What is there to discuss? Simply put, we wish for my friend's property to be returned to him without delay, and require an apology from New Zealand Defence Force in relation to Sergeant Skip's jackboot behaviour from that evening. I am more than happy to discuss why New Zealand Police chose to send armed officers to my friend's father's address, inquiring as to my friend's firearms and his views on minorities, etc. Myself, I do not have the time or resources for a fourth time to attend Henderson Police Station today, and should you wish to explain the actions of New Zealand Police to date, I will be available from next Wednesday at a time that can be made suitable. If you wish to return the stolen property to my friend, you are welcome to leave his property at Henderson Police Station for our collection at our convenience. Or you may return his property to myself at this address which I give him. Any discussion and or correspondence will be recorded and published for maximum accountability and transparency on multiple public forums, as this matter has gained considerable attention thus far from the public. Clearly, as New Zealand Defence Force are now investigating the unlawful actions of their provost officer, they are aware that Sergeant Skip's actions were not lawful, and hence thus was any search or detention as a result of which. Perhaps if you could explain why my friend was released without charge on the 5th of June. You are welcome to give me a bell to arrange a time suitable to myself, should you require a discussion. However, this can easily be done via a telephone, and unless you have my friend's stolen property to return, we see no point in attending the station. Could you clarify why this discussion cannot be made via the phone? To reiterate, my friend has no comment to make and wishes to remain silent, as anything said can be used against him, never for him. Remember, you have the right to remain silent, and those rights pertain to you whether you're under arrest or not. Any lawyer worth his salt will always tell you, do not talk to police. It is that simple. Not unless you're aware of the games and the tricks they play. We look forward to your response. Sincerely, me. Okay, and that was at 8:53 yesterday, Saturday. And some 19 minutes later, Tim responds from his iPhone. Hi Mark, no need for a statement. I'm about to head out for another matter, so I pop in and drop them off to you soon. Which I take means that he's going to return my friend's stolen property. So I wrote in big bold things, as you can see, thanks Tim, excellent decision. And that was the correct decision for New Zealand Police to make. So this shows that New Zealand Police do actually follow the law. We have a brief conversation, which I'll also post up with Tim. Ironically, I just turned the car around so the camera was facing outwards so we could see Tim. And he showed up literally within 20 minutes of sending me that email. So he must have jumped in the car and shot straight out. And just for those people that want to question whether or not my friend actually got his knives returned to him or his work tools returned to him, let me show you. Here is one of his knives that he had on his leg. Okay, has a neat little flint fire starter, so if you want to make sparks you can. It is a survival knife and it was nearly $300 worth. Okay, Special Forces, very nice knife, extremely sharp, or Elite Force stainless. Okay, very nice knife. This was returned with tape wrapped around it to keep it in one thing. Okay, so that was the knife that Sergeant Skip tore off of his leg because it was tied on there. He actually ripped it off his leg. So we got that returned. And in this pretty little container here was the Tashima, which is just a Stanley knife. Alright guys, it's just a click blade. Okay, that's all it is. But fair enough, that's like a 6-inch blade if you had it all the way out there. It could seriously cause some damage. So beware if you're at Pick and Save near a box cutter next time. These I consider to call them keys to 767s, because we all know what happened in 9/11. They used these things to take over planes, supposedly. Okay, and that was stored in the container with some tape wrapped around it. So I got that and that returned. Now, for some reason, Tim really didn't want to have much of a discussion when he showed up. He just, I had a brief convo. I'll put that up, like I say, very soon. I won't go into all of the bullshit that I started telling him about the property and the history of it, because that's really, never mind. But he certainly came out, gave us those. I told him that my friend was well aware that he could have easily gone for a skate if he had been searched by one of the police. And we've left it at that. Lesson learned by everybody. Unfortunately, the main lesson that needs to be learnt here is by Sergeant Skip. And I'm sure after this investigation has been concluded, he would have learnt something. Alright? So, end result here is real simple. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, New Zealand Police, for actually doing the right thing and returning property that was unlawfully stolen from my friend, that was unlawfully detained and searched by an MP. Thank you for doing the right thing. I do a lot of video recording of police, and it's sad to say that I catch a lot of them doing dastardly stuff. But when I catch them doing a good thing, and in this case Tim and Denny, they've all done the right thing. They haven't gone overboard, they haven't, going to his father's house to question him about minorities. I'm amazed they didn't ask him if he was a Trump supporter. I mean, going to those sorts of things I think is a bit over the top. But they could argue, well, there was a weapons offence possibly, well no there wasn't, that they needed to go and search to get his mindset, but none of them bothered to actually even contact him and ask him about it. No, they'd rather backhandedly go around and discuss things with his father, a grown man. Another story. Anyway, here's the audio and the video from when Timmy showed up and gave us back the property, which I signed for, happily. And I've made contact with my friend and he is absolutely over the moon that we've got a good result. How's it going, boss? Good, you must be Tim.
Oh, yeah, no, once again.
Oh, yeah, oh my god. Okay, you're fitting there, bro.
Oh, just about no. Right. Just rang me actually.
Hi.
Yeah, he wasn't. I don't think we'd spoken this morning. But anyway.
No, he wasn't.
No, it's cool. So there's the two knives.
Cool. Awesome. Is that what he had?
Yeah. It's not ideal, is it?
Oh, it's a Sheila.
Oh, so it's just a Stanley knife.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, well, you know, at the end of the day, he was coming home from work, and I've said to him since, I says, mate, you know, at the end of the day, you shouldn't have had them on you. No, and I says, consider it a lucky thing that someone unlawfully searched, because if the cop had searched you and found it, you'd be done.
Yeah, that's right. Are you happy to sign for them?
Yeah, of course.
So just items 01, 02, and the date is the 10th to the 8th. And just, oh, that's me. And that's you in that one. Cool. Awesome. You have a good day.
You too, Tim.
Not the best footy here, eh?
Oh, I love it, mate. We've been out here 37 years.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change it. Completely surrounded by market gardens, no neighbours, no annoyances.
We come out to that hour nursery a little bit for
Yeah.
like plants and stuff. That's good.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, all good.
All good. We have a good day.
Yep, you too, mate. Stay safe. That's the way. Yeah, I reckon.
Now, we just have Sergeant Skip to sort out and finish dealing with. But as far as New Zealand Police are concerned, every time I went in to talk to them, they were polite, they were respectful, apart from the one chick that's just the messenger, who was quite ignorant. But the rest of them, top notch. Jono, I forget the name of the elderly guy, and the chick that had watched my videos, good job. That's the sort of nice, friendly, courteous, respectful behaviour I expected to have. So, until then, see you later guys. Enjoy your day. Bye.